Hi, children. I'm going to tell you a story called The Little Matchgirl, which was written by Hans Christian Andersen. It will take us to the Kingdom of Denmark, which is far from your home and located in Northern Europe. The story happened a long time ago. In a cold street on New Year's Eve night, there was a little girl who had to sell matches just to survive. Isn't that really strange, children? On New Year's Eve, children should be at home with their parents, shouldn't they? But what's even more strange is that her matches had magical powers. They transported her to where happiness existed forever, and there was no more starvation, coldness, or sadness. Now, children, let's listen to this pathetic story. That night was New Year's Eve, and it was terribly cold and snowy. There was a little girl who, bareheaded and with nothing on her feet, walked alone along the dark street. As she left home, she had worn slippers, which were the last thing her mother gave to her before she had died. However, they were too large, and she had lost them when she crossed the street. The first slipper was crushed by a carriage and stuck to the carriage's wheel and disappeared without a trace. The second one was picked up by a naughty boy, and he threw it up in the air. He laughed and said he would keep it to make a bed for his puppy.
Give it to me. Give it back to me, please.
I will keep it to make a bed for my puppy.
And so she had to walk on with bare feet, so her feet turned first red and then blue because of the coldness. Her old apron was full of matches, and her right hand still held a bundle of them.
Please buy my matches.
She tried to reach a crowded place, but no one noticed her or bought anything from her. During the entire day, she had not sold anything, and no one had given her a penny. The poor girl, so cold and hungry, still walked along the street with the snow falling on her head and down her back.
Sir, God bless you.
Stay away from me.
Please buy my matches.
All the windows were lit up, and there was a wonderful smell of roast goose. It was New Year's Eve. As her kind grandmother was alive, her family celebrated the New Year's Eve at home happily together. However, the reaper had taken her grandmother away. Her family had run out of money, so she had been forced to leave her lovely house, which was decorated with beautiful climbing ivy. She now lived in a dark slum and had to listen to her father scolding every day.
Wow, it smells tasty. I wish I could have a slice of roast goose.
It was so cold, she sat down in a corner. She drew her little feet up close to her, but it became colder and colder, and her little hands were almost numb with cold. She could not go home, as if she had not sold any matches or received any money. Her dad would have beaten her.
Do you dare to come home without money? Get out of the house now.
Oh, it's so cold. Should I burn a single match to get warmer?
She was wondering, and she dared to take one from the bundle of matches, and then she burned it. What a wonderful light it was! She thought she was sitting before a large fireplace, and the flame was dancing and warmed her delightfully. She stretched out her feet to warm them, but the flame went out, and then the fireplace disappeared too. She held the remains of the burnt-out match and felt very sad. Without thinking, she struck a second match. This time, the wall turned into a veil, and she could see into the room. There was a table in the middle which was full of delicious foods. The most wonderful thing was the roast goose, and it appeared to jump right out of its dish and came up to her with a knife and fork in its back. And then the match went out. In front of her now was a cold, thick wall. On the street, there were still some people passing by, but they didn't notice her at all. She struck the third match. Suddenly, a large Christmas tree appeared. Hundreds of candles were shining and twinkling beautifully on the green branches. The little girl reached both her hands toward them, but all the candles flew up and turned into stars in the sky.
Oh, maybe someone is about to pass away.
She was thinking of what her grandmother always told her before she had died. When a star falls, a good soul goes up to heaven. She rubbed another match against the wall. The yellow light shone around, and she could clearly see her grandmother smiling at her.
Grandma,
She cried.
take me with you. I know you will go away when the match burns out, like the tasty roast goose and like the large Christmas tree. But please don't leave me, Grandma. We used to be so happy, and you told me that if I was a good girl, I could meet you in heaven one day. I beg you, please tell God that I want to follow you.
When the match burnt out, the shining mirage vanished in front of her face.
Grandma, don't leave me. Please tell God that I want to live with you.
And so, one by one, she struck the whole bundle of matches. She wanted to keep her grandmother near her. The matches gave such a brilliant light that it was brighter than at midday. She had never seen how beautiful and tall her grandmother was. It was an amazing moment as her grandmother took hold of her hands and took her flying higher and higher. Neither hungriness, coldness, or sadness could threaten them now, since they were with God. Next morning, snow still covered the street, but as the sun rose, it was much warmer. Children were excited when their parents let them go out to play. In the corner, leaning against the wall, sat the little girl with red cheeks and a smiling mouth. Next to her, there was a bundle of matches which had all been burnt. She had frozen to death on New Year's Eve. They said maybe she was trying to warm herself, but no one knew the last magical thing she saw last night. Children, this story is over now. This story is woeful and meaningful, isn't it? As you all know, around us there are many children who are less fortunate than you. They have to work outside to survive like the little match girl. So we should feel sorry for them and help them if we can. If everyone is kind-hearted, life will be much more beautiful, don't you think, children? Thank you for listening to this story. Goodbye for now, and see you soon.
Poor her. Does anyone know? Where do her parents live? Poor her. Does anyone know? Where do her parents live?
Hey, kids! Have you ever heard the story about two lovely goats who fought for overcrossing the narrow bridge? Each managed to jostle their way to the other side. What happened to them? Now let's listen to the story. Two Goats.
Meh. Hey, yeah.
One morning, the black goat and white goat met each other on a narrow bridge. They both reached the opposite sides of the bridge at the same time, and both of them looked very hurried.
La 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 la. Oh, who's that?
It's me, Black Goat.
Hey, hey! Yeah! What? Hey, hey!
Each one wanted to go first, and neither would give in to the other.
Go back and let me cross. I'm in a hurry. My grandmother is ill.
No, I will go over first. I'm in a hurry too.
What?
Therefore, they argued for a while. They were very furious and ready to put down their horns to fight. Each drew back and then made a dash at the other. When they were fighting, they lost their balance and fell down.
You must go back. This is my bridge.
Whatever it is, I will not wait for you, so go back.
Meh.
Hey, yeah.
Fortunately, the golden cow passed by and he saved them. He took them out of water, dried their heads, and said, "If each of you had given in to the other, both of you now would have crossed the bridge and would not have fallen into the water." Moo! Moo! Let me help you. Moo! Moo! Let me help you. Oh, bad kids, if you had yielded each other, now you would not be wet like this. The two goats apologized to each other and promised that they would not jostle against the other when they met again. Hey kids, the story Two Goats ends now. This story shows you the meaningful lesson that you should give up what is yours to help your brothers, sisters, or buddies. Additionally, as you join the traffic, you should give way to others, especially older people. Greed and jostling are really bad. Do you remember those lessons? Goodbye. See you again. That's right. You are good kids now.
White goat, I'm sorry about that.
Black goat, sorry. Golden cow, I promise I will concede others.
That's right. You are good kids now.
Once upon a time, there lived a rich man whose wife had passed away many years ago and left behind a daughter. The girl was so beautiful, charming, and gentle that everyone loved her. One day, the father took another wife, a woman with 2 daughters. These girls were beautiful to look at, but in their hearts, they were evil.
My dear, I have a surprise for you. Here is your stepmother and stepsisters. We will live together from now on.
Come here with me, daughter. What a lovely girl. Good morning. Huh, the house looks nice enough. From that day on, the daughter lived an unhappy life. She had to serve the stepmother and stepsisters, who took all her beautiful clothes, gave her only old rags and wooden shoes, and put her in the kitchen. Day by day, she had to do all the chores of the house, from early morning until night. She was not allowed to sleep in a bed. Instead, she had to lie down next to the fireplace in the ashes. Her face and clothes were always dirty with cinder and ashes. That's why the 2 stepsisters called her Cinderella. The father one day went to the market and asked his daughters what presents they wanted. The stepsisters asked for nice dresses and jewels, while Cinderella only asked for the branch that struck his hat. On his way home, a branch of a chestnut tree struck the father's hat, so he brought it home for Cinderella. The girl thanked her dad, she planted it beside her mother's grave and wept bitterly. Her tears made the branch very wet. Its buds and shoots burst out and soon grew into a large tree. Cinderella visited her mother's grave every day, and there was a white bird settling on the branch every time. Whenever Cinderella asked for something, the bird would give it to her. Mom, I miss you so much. Mom, I miss you so much. One day, the king held a 3-day ball and invited every beautiful young woman in the kingdom. There, his son, the prince, would choose a wife for himself. The 2 stepsisters were invited too. They were very excited. They asked Cinderella to comb their hair, prepare beautiful clothes for them, and tighten their laces. After doing all the housework, Cinderella asked if she could go to the ball. But the trio made fun of her. "A dirty girl, Cinderella! How dare you attend the royal ball in your rags?" Then the stepmother threw a basin of peas into the ash heap and said, "If you can get every pea picked out of the ashes in an hour's time, I will let you go." "I have done all the housework. Please let me go with you." "Huh, lazy. If you get every pea picked out of the ashes, I will let you go." "You can't dance. If you go there, you will only put us to shame." "Huh, how can you afford to have a beautiful dress for the ball? What a dirty girl." The stepmother and her arrogant daughters left in a hurry. Cinderella ran away to the garden and sang out, "O gentle doves, O turtle doves, and all the birds that be, the peas that in ashes lie, come and pick up for me. The good must be put in the dish, the bad you may eat if you wish." Immediately, a great number of little birds came to the ash heap and commenced to pick, pick, pick. The birds sorted the peas in less than an hour. "Oh, it's tasty." "Hey, hurry up! Come here! These peas taste better." "Little birds, please come here and help me sort these peas." "Thank you so much." But Cinderella didn't have clothes to go to the ball. What should she do? She went to her mother's grave, sat under the chestnut tree, and called out, shake yourself, little tree! Throw some nice clothing down to me." Instantly, the bird gave her a gown embroidered with golden thread and a pair of sparkling glass slippers. She put them on and headed to the ball. shake yourself, little tree! Throw some nice clothing down to me." Wow, how beautiful it is! Thank you so much, my little bird. Yippee! Let's go to the royal ball! How ill-mannered! We're going to the royal palace, so it's better to be polite. Cinderella went to the ball splendidly dressed, and everybody admired her beauty. The stepmother and her daughters didn't recognize her, thinking that she was a princess from a foreign country. The prince walked towards Cinderella, held her hands, and asked her to dance. He couldn't stay away from Cinderella, and he wanted to dance with no one but her. When anyone asked Cinderella to dance, the prince said, "She is my partner." Where is that beautiful princess from? The prince is crazy about her. Not a problem. There are still 2 nights left. Beautiful girl, Can I have the next dance with you? As midnight came, Cinderella said farewell to the prince and left. He offered her a ride home, as he wanted to know who she was. But when they were nearing her house, she eluded him and jumped into the pigeon coop. The prince waited until Cinderella's father came home. He told him about the strange girl who had jumped into the pigeon coop. The father thought,
Is that Cinderella?
"Have you seen a girl in there?"
Prince, there is really nobody here.
On the following evening, Cinderella went to the tree again, shortly after the stepmother and her daughters had gone to the ball. The bird gave her a more magnificent and splendid gown than the previous one. The prince was waiting for her for a long time. When Cinderella arrived, she was so beautiful that nobody could take their eyes off of her. The prince held her hands and danced with only her. Late at night, the prince took Cinderella home. She ran to the garden behind the house and climbed to a pear tree laden with fruits. The prince waited until the father returned home. The father cut the tree down, but he found nobody there. When he came to the kitchen, Cinderella was lying in the ashes as usual. "Look for her carefully. I saw her climb that tree."
Prince, there is really nobody here.
"Where can I find you?" On the third evening, Cinderella looked gorgeous in her magnificent clothes and sparkling glass slippers. Everyone was astounded by her beauty, and the prince couldn't take his eyes off of her. But at midnight, Cinderella made a low curtsy and left in haste again, like on the previous occasions. This time, the prince had the stairway covered with resin. When Cinderella ran down the stairs, one of her slippers got stuck. "Stop! Please don't run away!" Wow, a sparkling slipper! I will certainly find you. The following day, the prince brought the slipper to the house of Cinderella's father and said, "I will marry the girl whose foot this slipper fits." The sisters were glad. The elder tried on the slipper, but it was too short for her. Her mom told her to cut off her big toe, and she obeyed. Biting her teeth together, she cut it off and met the prince. The prince rode away with her. When passing by the grave, a couple of pigeons called out, "Rook-de-goo! Rook-de-goo! There's blood in the shoe! The shoe is too tight! This bride is not right!" The prince looked down and saw the blood streaming from her shoe. He took the false bride back to her house. "How lucky I am! Finally, I have found you!" "Try a little more. When I become the queen, I will never have to go on foot."
"Rook-de-goo! Rook-de-goo! There's blood in the shoe! The shoe is too tight! This bride is not right!"
"How dare you cheat me?" I'm the real bride." Then the second tried on the slipper. Luckily, her toes fit in it, but her heel was too large. So she obeyed her mom and cut part of it off so that the prince would pick her. But when they passed by the grave, the false bride was discovered by the pigeons on the chestnut tree. The prince looked at the slipper and saw the blood streaming from it. He instantly took her back. "My goodness, why did you come back?" Mom, my foot, it hurts."
What happened? What did you do with her?"
"This is not the true bride. How dare you cheat me? You're disrespectful to me." The prince asked if there was another daughter in the house. The father answered there was only Cinderella, but she could not be the bride. However, the prince insisted Cinderella try on the shoe. She made a low bow to the prince, pulled the heavy shoe from her foot, and tried on the nice glass slipper. The shoe fit perfectly. When Cinderella lifted her head up, the prince recognized her as the beautiful princess who had danced with him. He cried out, "This is the right bride!" "Hey, girl, try it on." "This girl is very dirty. She will make a muck of your shoes." "Oh, it's you! Finally, I have found you!" The prince took Cinderella behind him upon his horse. When they passed by the chestnut tree, the pigeons cried out, "Rook-de-goo! Rook-de-goo! No blood's in the shoe! The shoe's not too tight! This bride is right!" The prince and Cinderella's lavish wedding ceremony was held a short time later. From then on, Cinderella lived happily ever after. That's the end of my story. Isn't Cinderella kind, hard-working, and lucky? Lazy and wicked people, like the stepmother and the two daughters, will get an unhappy ending. So, you should always be good and polite children, who study hard and help your parents and grandparents so that everyone loves you. Goodbye, and see you again.
This time, the peasant didn't plant turnips again, but wheat. When the grain became ripe, he went in.
To you, happy birthday,